Alright, starting stream now. Should be popping up on people's screens soon. Okay, we're good to go. RC, are you through all the preseason games?
No, I still have two to go. The two Sunday games, I think.
Damn. Well, that's impressive that you got through 14 games through Tuesday.
It has been, especially the first week. I'm looking to see if we're up. I don't see it yet.
I see it popped up, and there should be a
but
viewer
mine,
popping in
yeah,
soon. But yeah, go ahead.
mine has been lagging when you say we're up. Yeah, there we go. Let me get the volume right. The first week of the preseason, getting to see McCarthy and Bucky Irving and all of these guys for the very first time, it takes a while. It takes me a while to process it.
Yeah.
And go back. Plus, then go back and look at some of the defenders, try to find them, rookie ones that are just kind of buried in there. So it takes a while.
Was there one game, RC, that like stuck out to you? Like, oh, this was like my favorite game to watch of the through the 14 games you reviewed. Was there one that just popped out to you?
I could go. If we talk games that pop out, can be for negative or positive reasons. I would say I'll probably remember. Be like the JFK assassination. Not that I was alive during that, but it's like in my head right now, I'm like, I remember where I was when I saw JJ McCarthy and felt like the biggest idiot walking the face of the earth in football scouting. So that game sticks out to me so far, just because I'm like, wow, I did not even think that would be for his week one debut. I did not think that would be in the realm of possibilities of what I would see. When I saw the Bo Nix debut, I was like, yeah. I mean, that was way better than it should go for rookies making their debut. But I had some faith in Bo Nix. I thought he was pretty good. So when he looked really good and looked like he did at his best on tape, I was like, good for him. That works. When I saw Caleb Williams, I saw the issues. Even though the mainstream is going bananas that was the greatest debut that they've ever seen, and that he's locked in. I watched that. I'm like, yep, that works. Penix, that's who I expected to see. Jaden Daniels rushes for a touchdown. That's what I expected to see. I'm like, Spencer Rattler stinks. That's what I expected to see. Like, I expected. Then I watched JJ McCarthy, and I'm like, what? Who? What? How? Why? What did I do here? So I'll probably remember that for years to come.
Yeah.
Which is good. I'm always morbidly fascinated when things like that happen, that so catch me by surprise.
RC, I hate to do this to cut into your agenda. I know there's like 10 things you want to jump in today, but for us in Dynasty, right, for people that play Dynasty, would you advise people, because now JJ McCarthy, even though he looked good, could be out 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 6 months, he could be out the whole season. Is this a time to kind of buy low on him because he's going to probably be out this season? Like, would you advise people to try to go after him for cheap?
No, not necessarily, because I think we have a problem lurking too. I'm not. All I can say on JJ McCarthy is I thought this was, and I wrote it this way. I thought this was a D or F quarterback. That at best he was going to be Sam Darnold. At best he was going to be able to be a game manager. I didn't see really any evidence of him at Michigan just taking over games through the sheer force of his will in the face of immense pressure. Like, he always had the best of setup and circumstances at Michigan. so him coming out and looking so good at his best, it's like I didn't think that was in him. So now I'm in he's definitely not a D or an F. Now we're talking A, B, or C. But I need to see more, because what he did that Nix and Penix didn't do, for example, is McCarthy was also throwing into trouble. There would be great throw, right in the trouble. Like, why did you try to fit that in there? I would expect that from rookie debuts. So I'm not totally shaken, but Penix was not doing that. Nix was not doing that. They were in total control. They looked like they had been playing in the NFL for a couple of years. McCarthy had flashes of that, but then he had flashes of he's throwing into danger. And if the defenses he faces gets better, is he going to get jittery and throw into trouble like a Sam Darnold does? Mm-hmm. So I haven't swung all the way from this guy's no good to now this guy is great. I'm into the C range of I want to see more to see which way this is going to go. And now they just took it away from us. So I'm not going to be able to tell what to do with McCarthy. But since McCarthy looks so good and he's a draft pick status guy, he's not coming cheap. I don't think anybody's given up on him. And then what's there to buy? If you try to buy him now, people are going to want to hold on to him. If you wait and they come out and they say he's going to miss the year, this is worse than we thought, he's going to miss the year, then we're a whole year to. That's maybe the point where you'd want to buy low, is if they announce he's out for the year and you give it a couple of weeks so everybody forgets his debut and they concentrate on that they need a fifth running back, or they need a starting, or their Hollywood Brown really broke his shoulder or whatever. You could take advantage of somebody desperate, and it'll be weeks removed away from the JJ McCarthy hype. So now is not the time. I don't know that there will be a time now that I would want to go all in on McCarthy. I'm more excited that if I missed the McCarthy thing, if other people drafted him and I didn't, and I missed out because I'm dumb, okay, great. I'm not going to now try to chase this. I don't think he's that good, but it gives me enthusiasm to really go in after Justin Jefferson, because now I don't think Justin Jefferson is doomed for the future. I was worried that we were going to have a year of Darnold and then a year of struggling McCarthy, that they were going to try to make a thing. And it's like, those are not two quarterbacks I want linked to my Justin Jefferson. Now I'm like, okay, Darnold's competent enough to get the ball out. I just didn't know about McCarthy. But now that I see that he can rip it downfield, I'm good. I could play it more towards this. If you wanted to get Justin Jefferson, who is obviously costly, but people are willing. I've seen people willing to let him go in a reasonable trade because they're afraid of Sam Darnold. They're afraid of the downgrade from Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, you see him in redraft, RC. He's like he's always like the last out of the elite receivers. So people are definitely proceeding with caution this year, and I'm sure in fantasy, dynasty, people are trying to, they don't want to deal with the Darnold or McCarthy, so you could probably get him at a discount.
And all we're talking about here, the thing that you'd be chasing with McCarthy is if we're moving the meter from not a bust to he's not bad, we're talking QB2. We're not talking about like the guy who trades worse than JJ McCarthy, trades for less value that people don't believe in, that will be a QB1 way before McCarthy will be, is Will Levis. So if it's a quarterback friendly, or super flex or anything like that, I'm getting my ducks in a row to get Levis on my team, because he's going to be, not only is he going to be a QB1 this year, that offense, you asked me when we first started up the stream, and we were just talking as things were getting set up, what caught my attention. And I started talking about remembering the McCarthy thing because I got it wrong. What I also remember is watching the Tennessee Titans and going, holy crap. This is real. That. This is going to happen. Yeah. Whether Tennessee wins 10 games and is a playoff threat, or whether they win 7 games, it's going to be an exciting offensive passing game explosion in Tennessee.
Yeah, and we knew this with Brian Callahan bringing in Dad, Bill Callahan, to coach up that offensive line, so they're going to be good there, right? So now Levis has his protection. But RC, who could be if Levis explodes, who's the winner, like, from a pass catching standpoint?
Let me back up one thing. We've been talking about Levis all year, and we suspected, knowing Levis's talent, assuming what the Callahan offense would be, but then when you see it, that's one of my most memorable things of the week, is actually seeing it happen, and the total speed that Tennessee was playing with on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And I sent Ross Jacobs a note. I was like, I typed like, wow, Tennessee Titans, wow. Because usually when we're watching stuff and we see something super good or super bad, we'll shoot each other a note and say, did you see this? Or you're not going to believe when you watch the whatever. So I sent I'm like, wow, Titans, wow, this is something. So he's like, oh man, that's good. Like, I'm going to have to watch that. So then later in the day, I get a text back from him. He's like, you weren't kidding. Holy crap. So it made me feel good. I wasn't the only one who thought that. So Levis is already a QB1 talent. Me running my mouth everywhere saying that Will Levis is the best quarterback from the 2024 NFL draft, even though he wasn't in it, obviously, trying to make the point of where Levis is compared to the rookie quarterbacks. Me putting that out there, and the podcast putting it out there as shorts, and me on the line with Will Levis, and everybody, when I go on to New Territory podcasts, there's be a lot of disbelievers when I throw out the things that I throw out. When I've backed Levis, that's probably been the one thing I've been the strongest on, and usually gets the worst reaction to, because everybody's so sure Will Levis isn't that good. So nobody believes it. So I would almost guarantee that is going to be true. Marvin Harrison Jr. may go on to be a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and I look like an idiot. Caleb Williams may end up being functional. I don't think it's going to happen from what I've seen, what I know, and now what I've seen. But maybe he's okay. Maybe he's better than what I said. But the Will Levis thing, I guarantee that guy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, put into the perfect offense. If he was put into the what's the worst situation he could go into? If he was put on the Steelers, if they would have traded him to the Steelers to be with Arthur Smith, or if they would have hired Arthur Smith as their head coach, or if they would have kept Vrabel and Vrabel brought back Arthur Smith because he was fired from the Falcons.
Very real possibility.
I would be having totally different reactions and conversations.
Yeah.
This is Will Levis, arguably, I'll couch it a little bit because all these guys are so good. Will Levis is arguably the best quarterback from last year's class.
Wow, that's a big statement.
and then you take him and drop him into the perfect situation, it's fantasy gold.
Yeah.
So I think only injury is going to stop him. Only the first 2 weeks of schedule may stop him. So people wanting to look at and go, I want to see how he does against Chicago and the Jets. And if he doesn't kill it, he's going to be readily available, type of thing. I get it, but I would also offer up the opposite. If he goes in and if he runs a sword right through the Bears week 1, it's on.
Or then even Sauce in week 2. What if he has his way with the Jets secondary?
And then if he blows away the Jets, which I see a path to them being able to do the way they're running the passing game, that he can walk out of that fine, then you're going to have to pay more, but you should pay more, because if he was that good against those two teams, he's going to destroy it the rest of the way, and you're going to want to pay for it. It's almost like the Josh Allen turn year, where it was so good right away, but people didn't want to believe it because, like, Josh Allen isn't supposed to be this good. They won't believe it with Will Levis either.
That's a fantastic analogy. I think that's exactly what we might see out of Levis with what you're projecting. And if you even remember that Josh Allen year, like when he exploded, I think he might have started week 1 a little slow from what I know. Did he hit the gates running in week 1?
He was stunning, and I was anti Josh Allen, and when I saw it, I knew it. It was just like with JJ McCarthy. It's like, okay, the past doesn't matter anymore. What I've said doesn't matter anymore. Something has happened, pact with the devil, whatever it is. We've got a different guy here. Nobody is this good in a game by luck. This is happening. We need to go out and make trades for him, because after that first week and the second week, he was on a ton of, buy low, sell high. Mm-hmm. He was the sell high guy week 1 and week 2, because everybody was like, Josh Allen isn't this good. Let everybody who's all excited about Josh Allen go ahead and get him. I'm like, I'll pay the price. I'm paying more than I would have if I would have drafted him in the summer or made a deal for him in the summer. But okay, that doesn't matter, because I would have only been guessing back then. Now I know, so I'm willing to pay you a premium to get this thing that now I know. So if that's what happens to Levis, if he just blows it away from the beginning, the price is going to go up. But it won't go up as much as it should, so there's still going to be time. But I think the time with Levis is ahead of all of this, because the guy's a excellent quarterback in maybe the most perfect situation a fantasy quarterback's going to have.
And RC, if he's in the perfect situation, if he's really going to go crazy this year, who's going to benefit off that? Is it going to be Ridley? Is it going to be
sorry. Back to your original question that I went 5 minutes in another direction on.
Yeah.
I believe, because we haven't seen it, so this is only what I project. Hopkins, if I could have just one of the wide receivers, and he's trading at an ADP price that's pretty attractive because he's out. One of the best things that could happen for Hopkins' value is not being available in the preseason, and people worried he's going to miss week 1. People were already cool on him because he's old. I'll take all your over 30-year-old superstar wide receivers. I'll take your Devontae Adams. I'll take your Hopkins, just like last year I took your Mike Evans and your Keenan Allens. You got to get them in the right situations. So I think Hopkins is the one. Ridley's going to do fine as well, but he's not better than DeAndre Hopkins. Boyd will be kind of like he was with Joe Burrow, the third wheel, in and on and off a normal roster, 17 player roster, 12-team league. Boyd would be picked up and used when he'd have a good week, and then he'd have a bad week and they'd drop him, and then back and forth we go with Boyd. So Boyd would be the third option, but really not the third option. I'd rather have Tony Pollard than Tyjae Spears, because I think they're going to get a ton of the passing game as well at running back. So if you're in PPR, both of those guys are going to have, if that offense is just the greatest show on turf 2.0, the running backs are doing a lot of the work, because they've worked a lot with Levis on just taking what they're, you're going to drop back. There's receivers and tight ends and running backs going all over the place. Don't try to be a hero because you've got the arm to do it. Sometimes the best play, we got you Tony Pollard, and you have Tyjae Spears, a little dump off pass to them when everybody starts getting afraid of your ability to throw downfield, and they back away. And if they back away and you check it down to Tyjae Spears, that's a 0-yard pass that might turn into 15 free passing yards, because you want Spears out in space with the ball, or Tony Pollard. So don't be afraid to use them. And in the first preseason game, that's what he did. When he was in, he was perfect looking in the pocket, perfect mechanics, looking downfield, and then just ripping it short to the running backs or the tight end or a wide receiver over the middle. He was having a field day. So it's going to be a great situation. But Hopkins is the one. He's just the most talented guy there.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that, RC. So let's get into our agenda for tonight. You want to start off with talking about the Chargers quarterback, Justin Herbert, who I think has an injury called plantar fascia. Did I enunciate that correctly?
Plantar fasciitis.
So do you have any updates regarding that injury? Should we be concerned about him or potentially his pass catchers this season?
Yeah, I'm going to bust through the topics that I had quick, because I see we're getting a ton of questions in the chat, which is great that it's getting to be that time of year. So I'm going to go through quick. So ask me a follow-up if I'm going too quick, whether it's in the chat or Andrew. When Justin Herbert went down with this injury, they said it would be a 1 to 2 week issue. Now, people that have had plantar fasciitis are saying, many of them were hindered with it. I'm talking like us regular non-football playing humans. We get plantar fasciitis and we have to go to work, and we walk around and it's sore, and maybe you stop jogging or whatever because the pain is so annoying, and it comes and it goes, and you try to stay off your feet to let it kind of cure itself. Maybe you've got the wrong type of shoe. There's a lot of things that could be happening. If you've got minor plantar fasciitis, there's special socks, there's special stretches, and Herbert's going to get the best care that there is. He's going to get custom-made cleats. They have him in a walking boot, so he's going to get the best healing process possible. So if you non-surgically try to cure it, which you can, it might be just a 2-week thing. So we're at the end of the 2 weeks. The alternative was, if it was deemed bad enough, you could have surgery and then you're out 6 weeks. It'd be a miracle if you could make it back in 4, but you're probably looking at a 6-week recovery process before you can get back to normal. And football players are not normal. So he's going to be stressing it. So you need to make sure that it's completely healed. So if they would have let him have the surgery when this popped up, he would have been back right around in time for week 1, or worst case missed week 1, and he would start week 2, and they'd go on from there. So they had a decision to make. They decided to do the non-surgical, which means they have the best doctors, they have the best MRI, they have the best of everything. So they had to know that this was not a serious case, or this is what I would think. So if it's a non-serious, possibly curable without surgery, this is a 2-week injury at most, and then time to roll. I just saw something today where I think it was Harbaugh. I'm not sure. They're saying now, well, he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks, and then, we hope. This has moved from 1 to 2 weeks to now 2 to 4 weeks. The longer this goes on, the more concern that it might be something that can't be cured with non-surgically. And if he has to have the surgery, they take him out of that boot in a week from now, 2 weeks from now, and they're like, oh, you know what? This is really bothering him. We don't want him to play through this. We're not going to shoot him up so you can play through plantar fasciitis. They could numb him up. It's just not going to get any better. It's going to be lingering for the entire. You're better off with a guy like Herbert. You just get the surgery, get it cured, give him the 6 weeks to heal, and then you got your franchise quarterback. Well, if they make that decision 2 weeks from now, he's missing the first month plus of the season. That's bad enough. I don't know that anybody's relying on Justin Herbert as their number one quarterback for fantasy. So that's not the thing that's got me totally concerned. It's the ripple effects. If Justin Herbert isn't there, and I just watched that Chargers-Seattle game and watched Easton Stick, and he would be the starter because he's experienced. The undervalued status of Ladd McConkey blows up in my face, because instead of him being a PPR wide receiver 1 off the jump with Justin Herbert, now I can't trust him with Easton Stick. If I think Gus Edwards is going to rush for 15 touchdowns because they have a balanced attack where you can't overplay the run because Justin Herbert will kill you, if now teams could go, we're not afraid of Easton Stick. We know they want to run. We're going to put 13 guys in the box, and Gus Edwards isn't going anywhere. Then the Gus Edwards undervalued story blows up. So I'm just putting it out there that the longer this Justin Herbert thing goes on, the worse. Herbert, Ladd, and Gus are all highly undervalued assets for fantasy. They could all be taken down in one fell swoop if they announce that Herbert's having that surgery. So I'm just putting that out there, not to avoid all of them and get into a pan. Just, it's like it's on the table now. I'm not seeing him out of the boot. I'm not seeing them saying, oh, he's doing great in recovery, he's going to be back next week. It's like they're extending it out, which means to me he's not healed, and there's some level of concern. Maybe they're being extra cautious, which would be great, but they also could be, they gambled on him not needing surgery, and it didn't work, and now he's going to have surgery.
Yeah,
and that's going to blow up a lot of Charger-based things.
Definitely something to keep an eye on, RC. So we'll monitor that and hope. And do you think that they have to make a decision soon, though? Like, should the you'd think if he's gonna get the surgery, they'd announce it this week, right? If they go to the end of the preseason, then announce it, they're not gonna look too great.
I don't know what Harbaugh's doing, and I mean that in the bad sense, and I mean that in the good sense. Like, I don't know what he's doing. I just watched that team. And I'm looking at their wide receiver. I mean, they're playing the wide receivers that they have, except for Ladd McConkey. And I'm like, I can't believe these are your wide receivers. I can't believe these are your backup running backs. That you're going all in that J.K. Dobbins is never going to get hurt again when all he's been is hurt for the last 2 years. Like, you are going all in pretty much on McConkey and Gus Edwards to carry you because you have Justin Herbert. How did you put yourself into this position? And then if you're wrong, if they made a misstep on Justin Herbert, then everybody's in trouble there. So I really don't know what they're doing, whether they're making smart decisions or Harbaugh is flipping coins to make decisions or tapping into space aliens for decisions. That guy is just out there. So maybe they're going to play this perfectly and they're just giving him an extra week and he's going to come back and this is going to be no big deal. But it's starting to get me worried. 2 weeks ago I was like, plantar fasciitis, you can correct that without surgery. But now we're getting close to the apparently it didn't take. They could be just using an extra week to be super cautious, which would be smart. But they're not saying they've gone from 1 to 2 weeks to now 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's concerning, but hopefully he starts week 1. Let's move to the next topic. RC, you wanted to give an update on Rashee Rice, who earlier this offseason was involved in a high-speed crash, right? And I think there was even footage of him walking away from like the incident or whatever in Texas. People are speculating that there might be a suspension involved. Have you been hearing any more details regarding that potential suspension?
And this is getting out in the news, but it was a today thing. Not everybody has heard it, so I just wanted to put it out there because it was news to me. That's important on how to play this situation. The league, Rashee Rice told somebody he hasn't even been contacted by the NFL. He hasn't even spoken to the NFL about the matter. So usually if you're going to get suspended, if you've got something up on the board for suspension, they're calling you in and getting your side of the story, and there's an investigation. They haven't even talked to him. So the NFL is going to let this process play itself out, which means nothing's going to happen if it happens until 2025. So I think it's all but assured Rashee Rice is playing this season as normal.
And if that's the case, RC, with Hollywood Brown getting injured in the first preseason game and you not being so high on Xavier Worthy, does Rice shoot up our rankings?
I mean, he shoots up my rankings because I think everybody, and I know I did, had built in some risk management that what if he's gone for 8 weeks? What if he's gone for 4 weeks? Like, how do you value that in redraft? Now, if that's off the board, then I'm just going back to at worst, I'm going back to a normal projection. But if Brown is down, then it just puts more of the workload on Rashee Rice. So Brown may miss a week or two, which is going to help Rashee Rice get out of the gates pretty quick. But I'm more in the camp of I don't think there's anything to fear here. Whether you want to go in on him, whether you fear him and Marquise are going to kind of split up whatever goes to the wide receiver, whatever doesn't go to Kelsey or Pacheco. If you like him, don't like him. I'm just saying there's no fear of him being suspended. That's like almost priced out of the market now.
If Hollywood Brown, if there was no suspension involved with Rashee Rice, where would he go in a redraft? If there was no risk of him getting suspended, do you think that he would like climb up to like the 4th round, 3rd round, or do you think he's kind of at his ADP, at the ADP he would have been at?
I think he rises quickly because anything Kansas City is overvalued that has a premium on it. It's like the undrafted free agent running back that's now a fullback, Carson Steele, took a couple of nice carries in preseason week 1.
Yeah.
Rushed for a touchdown, flexed his muscles. It looked cool. He's rocketed up the the trending boards, of players who are trending who's being picked up among the unobvious type player, the typically available type players. He's raced up to the top, and he's higher up on that trending than Jordan Mason, who, if anybody would have watched Jordan Mason work this weekend, it was jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
That guy's one of the 20 best running backs in the NFL, and he's not going to be able to start and show his skills because of Christian McCaffrey. Everybody should be going bonkers for Jordan Mason, yet they're going bonkers for Carson Steele. Why? Because he's Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
He's special because he's a Kansas City. It's just, that's the way it works with Chiefs players, with Cowboy players. So Rice could go up if no suspension, if there was none of that activity, if he was just doing charity work all summer, he might be a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, that's where I would pretty much take him. He's in that range of Q. And if there was no Hollywood Brown RC, he would probably even be a 2nd, or right after the elite receivers come off the board, you start considering him in the same class as a Drake London or an Olave, right?
Yeah, he'd be probably in that group with Pittman and London and Devonta Smith.
Mm-hmm.
It would be game on. Everybody wants to love him, but he has the incident. So the incident itself and the potential suspension has him at a bargain of sorts. So he may be a rare player that starts out for me this season as an overvalued player, because I thought for sure he would get suspended, to suddenly an undervalued player.
Yeah.
By the middle of August.
Okay. Let's go to our next topic. RC, we're going to provide an update on the Brandon Aiyuk trade rumors. If you guys were on our stream last week, I mistakenly announced that he had been traded already. I got duped by a false tweet. Ross was about to kill me. So, RC, what's going on there? I know Ayuk's still a Niner. What are you hearing from your sources?
I'm getting so sick of this story. I wish they would just get it done already so we didn't have to keep updating it or hearing the experts with their theories about what's going on. But today it's more, they have a deal in place with Pittsburgh. It's close, but then all of a sudden, at the same time, there's a strong offer by the 49ers to come back. So I would, if there was a strong offer from the 49ers, he would have signed with the 49ers already. So now they're pretty much getting to the point that they'd have to overpay him what he wanted because they hurt his feelings. So that's not going to happen, because that's been the whole problem, is they don't think he's worth what he's asking for in the marketplace. So I think he's going to get traded. I think it's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thought that for the last couple of weeks. The latest on it is, besides people saying the deal's in place, it could be any moment now, is that there is no wide receiver in return in the deal, is the rumor, the hottest rumor right now, that it's just picks based swap, which makes a lot of sense because that's every trade in the NFL, because they're so afraid to trade actual players for players. I still think there's a possibility that the guard James Daniels could be in the deal with a pick, but supposedly it's just a picks exchange now, of which I would imagine the 49ers would then use one of those picks or maybe use both of them to try to turn around and trade for somebody's wide receiver either before the season, but maybe a couple weeks into the season.
Good to know. And if no picks are involved, RC, you still expect the Niners to go out there and like trade for somebody else, right? To come in, into that receiving room? Or do you think there's a scenario where the current wide receiver corps of the 49ers or whatever, like that's what it's going to be in 2024?
They definitely value Juwan Jennings as legit. So I think they would be okay with running him as that number 2, trying to speed up Pearsall or go with Conley, or maybe pick up somebody low level, a veteran that maybe gets cut because of cost or what have you, and bide their time till they can make a big move for Devontae Adams. When it comes closer to the trade deadline, when teams are obviously out of it, the 49ers are going to be a destination that wide receivers are going to want to go to because they got a chance to win a Super Bowl. So they'll have opportunity to get wide receivers. So nothing's off the table. Them just running with Juwan Jennings more and others, or them taking the picks that they get from Pittsburgh and turning around and wheeling it to somebody else for their veteran wide receiver, I think is all on the board.
Okay. And the last topic you want to discuss before we jump into the chat, you're hearing that there are some trade rumors around the league regarding running backs. What are you hearing from your sources on that topic?
I'm gonna shotgun blast them out, and then if you hear something that you want to follow up on, let me know. But this could be a 20-minute topic if I took it all with explanations. But I'm just gonna throw it out there, and then anybody can ask a question in the chat, or Andrew, you can ask a follow-up. There's 5 running backs that I'm hearing the most potential trade scenarios on for various reasons, cost-wise or crowded running back room. And these are the guys that teams are sensing are going to be available. So in no particular order, the running backs that are the most being discussed or kept an eye on for teams of need to pick up: Khalil Herbert from the Bears, Miles Sanders from the Panthers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire from Kansas City as potentially being cut or just traded for, like one of those swaps where you send them a 6th, they send you Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a 7th. Like, before we cut them, let's move up around in the draft 2 years from now type of thing. There's no serious trade market for Edwards-Helaire. It's more people think he's going to get cut, and if somebody's desperate, they may make a very cheap pick swap exchange to get him. Israel Abanikanda from the Jets, and Samaje Perine from the Broncos. The teams that are in the running for running backs: Buffalo Bills I'm hearing rumblings that they're getting nervous about James Cook as the full guy, and Ray Davis is not looking like the instant other option. The Colts, Trey Sermon's going to be out possibly for a while with a hamstring injury, and he's terrible anyway. So the Colts need a number 2 running back.
And Miles Sanders was there when Steichen was with the Eagles, right?
Stole my thunder. That's what I was going to say. That is good. Miles Sanders is the target for the Colts. When he was with Steichen in Philadelphia the year they went to the Super Bowl, he had a 1,200-yard season with 11 rushing touchdowns. So Sanders to the Colts could very well be a thing if Carolina is smart enough to trade him. I don't know what Carolina's doing. Carolina is caught in a... Carolina is the worst team in the NFL. There is no one close to how bad the Carolina Panthers are. The worst run is arguable among a couple of teams, with Carolina right in there. But the actual worst team, collected team, from coach down to the 53rd man on the roster, is Carolina. That is going to be another disaster season. But I think they think that they might be good because they've got Bryce Young, and he's going to turn it all around with all the great weapons they got him, like Deontay Johnson, who can't catch passes anymore, and their offensive line that's already taking on injuries. There's just a vibe on that team. It's like they know that they stink. But David Tepper thinks they're possible contenders, and Dave Canales doesn't want to talk. He doesn't have the cachet to be talking negative about the team or cashing out on them. So he's keeping up, and I don't know if he's keeping up an air of confidence because he really believes it, because he's pie in the sky guy, or he's just trying to shine David Tepper on because David Tepper thinks they're a contender. But if Carolina comes to their senses, they just should tank this season and start trading things off. And if they can get something for Miles Sanders, they should do it. But they're too dumb to, potentially. What I say? But Buffalo, the Colts, because they need a number 2, and the Cowboys are still keeping their options open, looking to see who might come available via cut or via trade. Not that they're thinking that they're going to pull off some trade and get Alvin Kamara or some, all of a sudden they've answered all their running back issues. They just could be looking to get another body to apply to the backfield because Royce Freeman isn't it, and Dowdle really isn't it. Ezekiel's going to lead that backfield.
Yeah.
But he's one ankle twist away from... He's not a frontline starting running back anymore, so they're already in a bad position offensively compared to the rest of their division, compared to the rest of the league. But then if they lose Elliott, then they're in a real spot. Then they're in real danger when they go down lower on the depth chart. So if they can get a Khalil Herbert, they might do it. If they can pick up one of these guys off the streets, they do it. Samaje Perine to be cut because Denver has plenty of running backs, and he makes a pretty good amount of money for a running back. I could see Denver thinking, we're going to cut him, but we can trade him because there'll be a trade market for him.
Yeah.
Always my first thought is him going back to Cincinnati to protect Joe Burrow. But they invested in Zach Moss. They got Chase Brown. I don't know if there's room at the end for Samaje Perine, but it could be there. But it also could be the Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. That Samaje Perine is the perfect fit. Take back that Jerick McKinnon role. Yeah. And also, if something happens to Pacheco, then they've got a veteran running back that can work with Prince or whatever they decide to do.
Denver's not going to do Casey any favors. So if Casey gets him, it's probably going to be on the wire.
Right. So I can see Denver literally giving him away to a team in need even like the Saints, just to keep them away from Kansas City. But I don't know what Denver's thought process is on this season either. If the offer was right, maybe they take something from Kansas City. I just don't know if Sean Payton is playing for this year. You could see Sean Payton dumping Tim Patrick, trading Cortland Sutton. Like, they're still a year away. So it's not like you give Kansas City Samaje Perine and that changes the dynamics of the NFL. So if it was a great offer, they might consider it. But if it's just another offer with everybody else's offers, then they would take other people's offers versus helping Kansas City out.
Yep.
And if they cut them, which is highly possible, that there's no takers, that there's no traders for Samaje Perine, then Samaje going to Cincinnati or Kansas City is going to be the debate.
RC, which running back right now of this like class, like a Khalil Herbert, a Sanders, where if they stuck in their current situations, they probably don't have a pulse in 2024. Which one of those guys would you be most excited about, or you think could get into a situation where there's some possibility of contribution in 2024? And it might not be one of those five guys you said. Maybe like if Emmanuel Wilson gets cut from Green Bay and he lands with the Cowboys, you'd probably get really excited about that, right? Is there a running back like that we should keep our eye on?
Well, if Miles Sanders winds up in Dallas, because Miles Sanders has a name and because it's Dallas Cowboys and everybody thinks Ezekiel Elliott is toast, everybody would just jump straight to the Miles Sanders is going to be an RB1 resurrection, RB1, RB2 resurrection in Dallas. So he goes from having no value today or little value today to having a ton of value. Same thing would be for Khalil Herbert if he went to Dallas. It's going to be any of these guys with a name, with a pulse, going to Dallas is who's going to have value. Even if it's Israel Abanikanda, the number 4 running back for the Jets, but who was drafted last year, if they were to cut him and Dallas picked him up, all of a sudden there'd be 27 different stories from the Dallas beat writers about how Abanikanda's the biggest steal of 2024.
Okay. Let's go dive into the questions, RC. We got the chat rolling right now. So first one, Jen Sawiki. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. I unfortunately do that all the time. Have a draft question. 14-team redraft, half PPR, and I have pick 13. I can keep ASB at that spot. Another option is to trade my 10th round pick for Tank Dell, who I can then keep for an 8th but lose ASB. RC, that's tough. What do you think?
I would be inclined to take to just keep Amon-Ra St. Brown, since that's a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
That you're getting at 14. I mean, who better are you gonna if you toss that in? Yeah, it'd be great to have Tank Dell cheap later, but you're gonna get, when we get into the later rounds, you're gonna find a star, and you're also gonna find guys that you cut by week 2, but there's opportunity there. But there's rare Amon-Ra St. Browns out there, so
yeah,
let's just go with Amon-Ra.
Yeah, it's a great value with Tank, but I agree with you, RC. If you have a chance, and he's lucky that he's picking at 13. If he was picking out like 1 or 2, it would have probably hurt a little bit more. But at least you get to have a high pick in the second round, assuming it's a snake draft.
Yep.
Okay, next question. G Socks Locks. Hi RC, glad to be back with you again this year. Thank you for all your hard work that you do. I have a dynasty question. I have 18 on my roster and have to cut down to 13 for the draft. My roster consists of I'm assuming Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson. For running back, Rashad, Zamir, Spears, Ramondre, Warren, CEH, Pierce, Brian Robinson, wide receiver, DK Waddle, Gabe Davis, Mike Wilson, Rashid Shaheed, Sutton, tight ends, Musgrave, Taysom. If I keep the best 13 according to your dynasty rankings, it has me cutting in order of worst to best, CEH, Davis, Taysom, Pierce, Sutton. I feel good about cutting these with the exception of Sutton. My wide receivers are very weak and he's still number one. I have the 1.08, 1.09, 1.10 picks along with the 2.09, 3.09, ninth pick of every other round. I need a tight end, but Bowers will not fall, and the guy at 1.07 has stated that he likes Ladd a lot, so I do not think I will get him to fall to me. Who should I cut? Who should I target in the first round? Should I drop Wilson instead of Sutton and redraft him with the 2.09 pick? So I'll stop there and we'll get to his next question after that.
I'm looking first and foremost, you have a roster that can compete for a title. So now I'm thinking more about now than I'm worried about 2027. Don't get caught up in playing for the magical future when you've got a title right in front of you. So if that being the case, I would probably keep Courtland Sutton over Mike Wilson, because as much as I love Michael Wilson for Arizona, Courtland Sutton is the obvious number one for his team. I don't know what Michael Wilson's status is going to be. So if it's just choosing between those two, you're almost forced to keep Sutton. If you can trade Sutton, you can probably trade Sutton and Gabe Davis and get some things. Get a pick, get a whatever. Take your 109 plus Sutton and move down to maybe 105. You put your, if you're on the brink of cutting a Michael Wilson, if you're on the brink of cutting a Sutton, if you take your 109 or 108, whatever, 110, whatever it is in there, plus Sutton to the person at 105, then you're going to be in the Bowers McConkey situation to take, if that's who you'd be eyeballing. So I would try to move up in the draft, give up your 8, 9, 10, give up your 8 plus Sutton, give up your 10 plus Wilson or whatever to just move up a couple of spots. The juiciness of the rookie draft is in that top 7. You start getting past the top 7, especially if McConkey doesn't fall, then you're in no man's land. And you're holding, if McConkey goes at 7 and Bowers goes at 5, let's say, your picks, like if it was in the stock market, we would see the price of the value of those picks would be like, let's say it's right here where it is now, potential to get McConkey. If the McConkey goes, then all of a sudden you start that you'd see the wheels spinning backwards and the value of those picks dropping dramatically. They still have value to people because that's where you can get a Jaden Daniels, but you don't need, it doesn't look like you need a Jaden Daniels, so you would end up picking them if you keep your picks. So I would try to pair some of these cut players with your pick to try to move up. If that doesn't work, if I'm just going to play it straight and cut the 5 guys, the guys that you stated all make sense. I mean, I hate to cut Taysom and try to live with Musgrave as my only tight end. There's probably not many tight ends that are going to be available to you. So one of Musgrave or Taysom, you'd hope, is going to work out for you. You'd like to have both of those lottery tickets. I think Pierce, you have CEH for sure. Gabe Davis, yes. Pierce, yes. Michael Wilson ahead of Sutton, and then man, do I hate to trade Taysom, or dump Taysom, but you almost would potentially have to at that point.
And maybe RC, to your point, you could use them in a
But
trade, and if
yeah, you've got so many running backs. I mean, trade Spears to the Pollard owner, trade
Warren to Najee owner.
not Warren to Najee owner type of thing to just free up an extra space as another option. So,
I mean, the first round, he seems like he has a lot of draft capital in the first round, 8, 9, 10. Like, you could package maybe 2 of those picks and get a higher first round pick and maybe get Neighbors.
you know, that's a good point. If you took 9 and 10 or 8 and 9, because if McConkey's gone, then I'm not sure what's going to be there. That's exciting. Maybe
Thomas,
Jace Daniels, maybe Brian Thomas. If you take that 8 and 9, even take the 8 and 9 plus a Michael Wilson, who has value, because of his youth and he's got some good buzz, but he's not an extreme. But if you're going to cut him anyway, maybe that gets you down to. I doubt it'll get you to 2, but you can try. I mean, you can throw Sutton and Davis, or Michael Wilson and Davis,
team,
plus an 8 and 9 to try to get down to 2 to get what you really want.
Yeah.
Or move to the middle to get McConkey. So you have options to maneuver your way, whether that's move up in the draft to get what you want, burn some of your first round picks to do it, to move up, or we addressed if you don't make any moves, there's the 5 guys to cut.
Okay, and there was one more follow-up question that I left off so that we can address the first question. Do I trade Josh Allen and draft Will Levis, who was cut? What would Allen even be worth?
No, you stick with Josh Allen. If you hope Will Levis is going to be Josh Allen, just keep Josh Allen. We know Josh Allen is Josh Allen. So Will Levis might be a Josh Allen, but Josh Allen already is a Josh Allen. So it'd be great to have. I would be for, depending on the scoring system, if it's quarterback friendly, like 6 points pass or 300+ yard pass bonus, dropping or trading another player to open up space so that you can stick Levis on there. I'm doing this in various leagues, even redraft. Like, my last pick might be Levis as my 3rd quarterback in leagues that don't really need to have 3 quarterbacks, but I'm getting Levis to see what happens in the opening games of the season. If he comes out on fire and explodes, you're going to be able to trade him that next week, like, versus taking a flyer on some dud wide receiver or, number 3 running back that you hope somehow everybody gets hurt in front of them. You could just take Levis as well. Like, there's a case for taking an AJ Dillon late, and then, like, hey, what if Josh Jacobs tears his ACL tomorrow? Then it's game on with AJ Dillon right now in Green Bay. There's logic for that. But if a lot of talent, if a lot of players are drained from the system, taking a Levis and seeing if he might turn, late last roster spot, and seeing if he catches fire to then move him or move any one of those you'd have a quarterback powerhouse. I think you said you were looking for better wide receivers. Your best wide receiver might be if Will Levis explodes and you're able to package him up with somebody else and get you a wide receiver that people are panicking on.
Okay. Next comment, Joe Schmo, and this was in relation to our conversation of all the rookie QB performances. Thought Knicks looked really good, composed. And then another follow-up comment on when you were talking about the Titans. The Titans running backs could get a lot of work.
Knicks really did look good. He looked the best of the rookie quarterbacks, better than Penix, better than McCarthy. It was great NFL work. Fantasy-wise, I don't know if Nix is going to give you something, but I don't think we're going to be talking about Nix as this raging QB1 out of the gates that changes fantasy football. But NFL-wise, this is turning out to be what Bo Nix showed in his debut is going to be better than anything Caleb Williams ever does as an NFL quarterback.
And RC, the head coach, Peyton, he desperately needs this to work, and he's probably going to do everything in his power. I mean, suffice to say, he would do that with any QB, right? Like, he would want any QB to hit, but I think, like, this is his... that draft pick was made when he was there. They have all this dead money with Russell Wilson. Like, this has to work for them.
It has to work, and it looks very much like it's going to work. This is going to be one of Sean Payton's finest hours. It's going to be a Sean Payton renaissance because everybody thinks Bo Nix isn't that good, so they're going to think Sean Payton sprinkled something on him and made him great. And Sean Payton has a hand in this for sure.
Yeah.
If Bo Nix wound up with the Jets, he'd be screwed. But in Denver, he just falls into a perfect situation. But that was great. He's playing great NFL quarterback in a way that Caleb Williams can't. Caleb Williams is going to have more highlight moments. Caleb Williams is going to have a cool scramble out of a sack and run for 25 yards, or scramble out of a sack and see somebody on the run open and throw him a bullet, and everybody will be amazed. Caleb Williams is going to give you better tingles up your leg and up your spine with some of his highlight plays that Bo Nix is not going to do. What Bo Nix's superpower is that he's really good every play. Everywhere he throws the ball is right to the receiver, catchable, in stride. He's not taking bad sacks. He's not panicking at the first sign of trouble like Caleb Williams does. So I was super impressed with Bo Nix.
RC, who's the winner of Caleb Williams scrambling, hitting receivers in stride? And I know, like, you don't want really anything to do with him, but if I told you there's going to be one receiving option there that's going to do well, would you say that's Allen? Would you say that's Moore? Would you say it's Kmet?
I say DJ Moore seems to be the option now, but when Caleb gets in a panic, there is no, hey, he's always going to throw it to fill in the blank. He's going to throw it to whatever he sees in front of him that's open because he's scrambling in a panic. There's guys that scramble on purpose and they're in total control of the situation, and they use their scrambles sparingly. Caleb scrambles a lot because you could see it watching the game. If you watch him, when he drops back in the pocket, he's trying to force himself to stay in the pocket because he knows he's not supposed to run at the drop of a hat, and he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to get hit. But you could see he was slow to process what was going on. He was triple tapping the ball when he was holding it up, waiting to throw the pass. There was those multiple hitches. He is not, I've said it all along, he is not comfortable playing legit NFL quarterback, but he's going to have some cool highlight plays.
Yeah, which he did. I think he had like a crazy pass where he rolled right, hit Kmet, and I was like, damn, the guy he's
got tools.
Yeah.
But he does not. He is, Bo Nix is everything Caleb Williams is not.
Well said. Okay.
And you're going to want in the NFL, you're going to want Bo Nix.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, a good DCRC will basically not let him roll left, roll right, make him sit in the pocket, dissect the defense, and then we're in trouble.
I wrote about it. It's going to take about 2 to 3 games before they figure him out. They should figure him out right now. I'm giving them 7 figures of advice.
But DCs don't game plan for preseason, right? They just roll out vanilla coverages, maybe test.
I don't know what they watch. What they're going to do, I guarantee it, is they're going to be so afraid of the mystique and hysteria of Caleb Williams that he might leave the pocket as he does, and that he might run for 15 yards away from a sack. They'll be so afraid of that happening that they will play back and they will give him time, and he may look really good off the jump because they're not pressuring him as much as they should. If you give him time, he's fine. If you put him under any pressure, he's going to fold. He's not in control of the game. The game's in control of him. He needs perfect blocking and situations, just like Bryce Young in Alabama. They need perfect situations to spring them. The bad news for Caleb Williams is they're playing Tennessee the first game, and if the Tennessee defense that I saw this weekend goes to play Chicago, they're coming after Caleb Williams, and they got speed all day long on that defense. So it could be a train wreck in week 1 for Caleb Williams. Or Tennessee sits back and waits for him to make a mistake, and then he picks them apart.
Yeah. One of my favorite DFS plays, RC, but we can talk about that as we get closer this season, is the Titans defense in week 1. But let's continue in the comments. Chris Primo traded Allen for Kyler. I'm assuming that means Keenan Allen, not Josh Allen.
No, it's Josh Allen. And what we were talking about was when the moment that Josh Allen had the turn, I was telling everybody, because we had a lot of people that had Kyler, that we made big moves for Kyler in dynasty rookie drafts, because I said he was the best player available in the dynasty rookie draft, which is rare for a quarterback, and that it's somebody that you should try to get into the top 5, top 3, and over trade, was that Kyler Murray was built for fantasy. And then he was. And so we're all great, glad it worked out. This is beautiful. But I started to see Kyler had kind of peaked, and he was also a knucklehead to a degree, or an empty head, not a knucklehead, but he wasn't too swift. When the Allen thing then popped up onto the scene, I was telling all of our people, a lot of them who had Kyler, I'm like, go get Josh Allen, use Kyler Murray as the bait if you have to do it. Expose the non-believers in Allen. They'll like Kyler. You're going to want Allen ahead of Kyler going forward. Not that there was anything wrong with Kyler, but it was going to be an upgrade. So there was a lot of people who took a leap of faith and traded their Kyler for Josh Allen, and history has looked upon that favorably.
Okay. Next comment, Tom Finn 2018. A.T. Perry, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 85 yards. Dennis Allen, meh. I think maybe we were talking about coaches not really caring about players at the time. I forgot exactly what we were saying.
That's probably just a general thing for frustrated A.T. Perry holders. A.T. Perry looked good in his preseason game, but he's working with the second team. They're going to start Cedric Wilson. Dennis Allen keeps talking about A.T. Perry is fine, but he's wanting to see more out of him. He goes out in the first preseason game and gives them a little more. You can just tell A.T. Perry belongs as a starting wide receiver. You know, what kind of targeting they want to give him and all that. I mean, Olave's going to get all the targets. Rashid's going to get some of the targets. There's going to be nothing hardly for A.T. Perry if he is a starter. But this is more of a commentary of Dennis Allen shooting his mouth off, downgrading his players. He's denigrated Kendre Miller and A.T. Perry so far this preseason, which is just brilliant coaching work, is to come out and call. If you want to call out Quentin Johnston, like if you're at the end of your rope, you want to call out Jamison Williams, you want to call out Kadarius Toney because it's the last gasp that you have before you cut the guy. But A.T. Perry's doing fine. He's a young player. I don't know that calling him out is necessarily the way you want to go about that. I mean, I get you're trying to fire him up, but I almost look at the Dennis Allen staff and going, how are you butchering this? You've had A.T. Perry now for 2 preseasons. You saw what he did when you put him in games last year. How are you butchering this? But they butchered Rashid Shaheed. They'll butcher A.T. Perry. They butcher Taysom Hill. They don't get the most out of them. They're going to do they're still living in 2018 New Orleans Saints heydays of, they're going to, if they could dig up the grave of Mark Ingram and put him back there with Kamara, that's what they're going to do. They're stuck in the past. They stuck themselves with Derek Carr. That franchise is going nowhere, and this should be the year that we finally see the end of the Dennis Allen era.
Could have been last year if he didn't blow out the Falcons in the last game of the season. But
I don't know. I mean, they still should have dumped him. There's going to be half the coaches in the NFC South are done at the end of this year. Dennis Allen and Todd Bowles.
Could you imagine if Canales gets canned too, and then Tepper going through all those coaches in the first year?
I think he'll keep them because it would look too ridiculous if he turned around and fired another coach after 1 year.
Yeah. I wouldn't put it past
Canales
him,
is working his way there towards being not a real NFL head coach.
Yeah, it's not for everyone when you're the CEO and not just the coordinator.
The bigger issue is going to be is when will they admit that Bryce Young was a mistake and they're just going to be done with it. I think it will also be this year that David Tepper will get into a frenzy and pull the plug on him because he's not going to want it. He can't go another season saying, we just need to get Bryce time. We need to get him more weapons.
No, he's impatient.
He's going to be better to rip the Band-Aid off.
And watch him go throw Reich under the bus and say, oh, yeah, Young was Reich's idea. I wanted Stroud or Richardson or Levis, but they didn't let me have him. So, anyways, let's dive into the next question. G-Sox Locks. Another question. 2-player keeper redraft. PPR 4-point passing touchdowns for QBs. Which 2 players should I keep? Keeper is what round they were drafted in -1 round. I am the 7th pick in 12-team league, 15 rounds. So here are the options, RC. Rashad for 4.7, Chase 1.7, Pacheco 5.7, Anthony Richardson 7.7, Kincaid 10.7, Dell 10.7, picked off of waivers equals a 10th round pick. I also have extra picks due to last year's trades. I have 4.4 and the 13.8 along with 7th pick in each round. I don't have a 14th round and 15th round pick. Traded my 15.7 and Pickens for 4.4. Thank you, RC. I don't know if you want me to pause there or keep going.
Let's get the rest of the scenario.
Okay. I expect there not to be a lot of great wide receivers left. Justin Jefferson, St. Brown, Tyreek will be kept. I think Rashad is a no-brainer. I think Dell is great value. Pacheco is great for a 5th round. Chase at 1.7 is also catching my eye because he's top 10, and there will not be hardly any top 10 overall players in the draft like CMC. A-Chain will be kept by one team.
So if I go through these players, so Rashad would cost him
a 4.7.
I'm interpreting this would cost him a 4th round pick. That's mild value because he goes 3rd or 4th round, sometimes as high as the 2nd. But so he's a little bit of a value. Chase is properly valued there, but he's a big asset. So if I could only keep one of Rashad or Chase, it would be Chase. Pacheco in the 5th is a better value than Rashad in the 4th, or worst case equal value. So the fact that Pacheco's cheaper, quote unquote, I would keep Pacheco over Rashad. Richardson in the 7th is quite a value and is a game changer in a 4-point quarterback situation. So Richardson, so Chase, Pacheco, Richardson makes sense. I would forego Kincaid, even though that's a value. There's plenty of tight ends, and I don't want to overpay for a tight end when you have all these other more marquee players to deal with. Dell is quite the value for a 10th round pick. So you're looking at Dell, Chase, Pacheco, Richardson. I would toss Rashad out of the equation because Pacheco is the better of the two options. If you're really sold that Rashad's better, then by all means. Really, this comes down to if he doesn't keep Chase when he goes into the first round to draft, and all those wide receivers are going to be gone, that first round is going to look a lot like the late first round, middle second round of a normal draft. So would I rather have Jamar Chase at the 1-7 or be stuck in that draft and be looking to get, maybe you get Devontae Adams at the, that 1-7 is more like in reality like a 1-12 or a 2-1 with all the players that are going to be kept. So there's a strong case for Chase. There's a strong...
I like Pacheco there too, RC. I like Pacheco at that.
The running backs are going to be... Everybody will keep their running back. A lot of running backs will be scarfed up. So if you dump Rashad and Pacheco back in, they're probably going to go in the second round because so many other guys were kept. So Richardson's the great thing is that you got all these options. The bad thing is you got all these options. You got to throw one of the running backs out. It's one of the running backs is in the running. Jamar Chase is in the running. Richardson for me is in the running. Dell for me is in the running. You almost have to take Jamar Chase because he's arguably one of the 3 best players in this. And you're not, if you throw him back in the pool, he's going to get drafted in front of you. And you're going to be stuck with potentially the equivalent of a second round talent.
Yeah.
That's not in a high-end elite talent. So you're almost, to try to play winning fantasy football, you're almost forced to keep Jamar Chase. Then Rashad, Pacheco, Richardson, and Dell are all really solid ways to go. I could make an argument for all 4 of those guys. Some of it based on valuation, some of it based on the positional scarcity that'll happen. I'm hard pressed to give an answer because I don't know the intricacies of the league or the way that they draft or if they undervalue quarterbacks. But I'm inclined to whittle that down to Chase for sure. And then I probably would throw Dell out just because there's going to be other Dell-like wide receivers to take in this draft.
And he's not a clear-cut one.
And he's not a clear-cut one, but he is pretty darn close to it. So, but I think I could find a wide receiver that could get me close to Dell in this draft more than I can probably find a running back replacement. Like if you throw I would say this: if you threw Rashad and Pacheco back in, you're going to draft one of them
with
or Derrick Henry with your second. So I mean, is that the worst thing in the world to ever happen? Is like, yeah, you could have kept them for a fourth and taken somebody else second, but why not just toss them in and pay the price of whoever, Rashad, Pacheco, Henry, Jacob? There's going to be running backs to take, so you're not going to be really hurting yourself bad if you bypass Rashad and Pacheco. Then if that's true, then you look at Richardson and Dell as just great fantasy options. Richardson the better fantasy option, but Dell is at such a great price. So I don't know. What I don't know is some leagues, they go crazy after quarterbacks. So Richardson might be a screaming value, or you're in a league where they totally look past all of the quarterbacks and don't care. And then you're like, well, if I toss Richardson in, I could take him I'll get him in the third or fourth round. So lots of ways this can go, but I think I'm safest to say that you gotta keep Chase, and then besides Kincaid, everything else makes sense. But I think if you throw Rashad and Pacheco back in and take them in the second, and maybe you're lucky and another one of them is there in the third, paying a round or so more is not going to be the worst thing that ever happened.
Right.
So, but it's nice to have one of them locked in. But it's also going to be nice to have Anthony Richardson. When it's all said and done, I could see Jamar Chase being the number one wide receiver in fantasy this year, like it's possible, or strongly possible. I could see Anthony Richardson being the number one quarterback in fantasy. I don't think Rashad's going to be the number one running back. I don't think Pacheco's going to be the number one running back. I don't think Kincaid's going to be the number one running back. I don't think Tank Dell's going to be the number one wide receiver. They'll all be wide receiver ones or running back ones, but Chase, if you went Chase and Richardson, you're going for the juggler. You're going for greatness.
Right.
If you go Chase and one of the running backs, you're playing it smart, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So just depends on what your risk management wants to be. Do you want to go for the gold with Chase and Richardson, and then if Richardson is that good, then he's a keeper again next year and a keeper again. Rashad and Pacheco are starting to get to in your league is starting to get to their natural values. I don't think you'll be keeping them again next year when they cost another round up. Like, they'll still maybe a bit of a value, but not a raging value. Richardson could be a raging value again next year. Dell could be a raging value. So if you want to play it smart and safe, chasing one of the running backs. If you want to just slam your foot down on the accelerator and scream out the window of your Dukes of Hazzard car and try to jump the canyon, chasing Richardson.
I like that analogy, RC. Okay, next comment. Joe Schmo. I've packed enough bags on the Gus Bus this year.
Yeah, we're going to be throwing those bags off the plane to lighten the load if Herbert's going to miss the first month of the season. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying we need to have that. Now this Herbert situation has gone for me from this is going to be fine, nothing to worry about, to now I got to keep an eye on what they're saying, what words are happening. Is he out of his boot? We're on boot watch with Herbert, which affects Gus and Ladd.
Keep matriculating. Half point PPR redraft auction. I was going to target Brock Bowers as my tight end, but I'm also considering Devontae Adams and Zamir White. So Bowers would mean 3 Raiders. Is that a situation you would avoid regardless of team? As such, I'm instead considering a $1 tight end. Is there a tight end you think has the best chance of outperforming a $1 cost? I'm thinking about Noah Fant. Would you target someone else?
Fant, Taysom Hill, Njoku probably won't cost you as much. I would be more inclined in an auction to look at the tight end position as something I'm not spending any money on, and I'm going to spend like $5 or less. I'm just thinking you're in a $200 auction situation, so adjust the money accordingly. So I'm thinking $200 budget. So I'd spend $5 or less on a couple of tight ends and hope I got lucky or make trades in season. Or work the waiver wires, just the gap for me, the gap of the top tight ends to the middle tight ends is not as worth paying up for the big names. So if people are going to chase Bowers, and they might not, if it'd be this being a redraft, you might just sit back and wait. Have a little list of names like Ferguson, Bowers, Njoku, and try to get you're probably going to get one of them for under $5. If you get backed into a corner and that plan blows up, as most auction plans go every which way, and the best laid plans can get blown up right off the bat. If I'm looking at dollar tight ends, Fant is one. Just look at names to bring myself up to speed. Fant is one. Musgrave is one. Taysom Hill is one. Guys I will look at as dollar tight ends. But you might get a Njoku or Ingram or Ferguson or even Bowers. You might get them for $5 or less. So then to the point of having 3 Raiders, I wouldn't worry about that so much as just cost management. Like if I'll take 10 Raiders if they're all at some raging value, if they're all guys that I want and they're an incredible value. So what's the worst that could happen with them all playing together? Aiden O'Connell's fine, and then if he gets hurt, Gardner Minshew is fine. So you got some built-in circuit breakers on that. It's not like with the Chargers, if Justin Herbert isn't there, we're all screwed. If Aiden O'Connell gets hurt, then we got Gardner Minshew. So we got a little level of insurance there. So Bowers is going to be his own thing. Zamir is going to be his own thing. And Devontae Adams is his own thing. They're all different bargains and gambles for different reasons. I don't think all them being on the same team is that big of a deal given who they are and what they do.
Okay.
Next. It makes Jacoby Myers for $1 one of your last plays as Adams protection if Adams gets hurt.
Yeah. Next question. Go Jin. If Aiyuk goes to Pittsburgh, what does that say about Roman and Pickens?
It says that George Pickens is going to be traded next offseason, and they know it, that they don't want to deal with him, and that he's going to be the Aiyuk contract problem of next year. That's why they're going after Aiyuk, is because I think they see that coming. They can't afford, just like San Francisco, they can't afford to have all their money spent on Aiyuk and Pickens when they're not even going to throw forward passes that much. And then it says to Roman Wilson, he's going to be a slot wide receiver of note for them a year or two from now when Pickens is gone, Wilson will be that number 2, but Roman Wilson. But I can't get excited or not excited about Roman Wilson a year or two from now till I know who the quarterback is, and the quarterback for the Steelers 2 years from now is not on the roster today. So I'm totally out on Roman Wilson. I love him as a player, but this is a terrible situation.
And then Tom Finn 2018. I don't get why the Steelers want Aiyuk so badly. Between Tomlin and Smith, that's like wanting to go out and get a second car when you don't.
Well, no.
Agreed.
There is one major reason why teams are after Brandon Aiyuk. And what is that reason, Andrew?
One reason why they want Aiyuk.
Especially Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith.
Might be too late in the stream, RC, if you're looking for a witty answer from me. But to steal Shanahan's play, I don't know. Top of mind.
In Moneyball, when he turns to the his new assistant scout, and they're like, "What? Why do they want?" And he snaps his finger and he says, "Because he gets on base."
Yeah.
They all want Brandon Aiyuk because he's a great blocker.
Okay. Fair enough.
So their precious run game, Mike Paul got it.
Yeah.
Their precious run game that they want is more enhanced by they're going to spend $30 million a year on a great blocking wide receiver who's also a good wide receiver in the pass game.
Fair enough.
George Pickens is not a great blocking wide receiver.
Yeah. Okay. Go Jane, I refuse to believe that Lovie Smith was the only head coach with the keys to unlock Dameon Pierce.
That's a great line. That's a great statement. Remember when Dameon Pierce, for about half a season, was the best rookie running back of his class? Like, he was so great that first year. Then he got hurt and missed the second half of the year. But everybody was like, "Oh, Dameon Pierce, man, he's the future." I thought it is. He looked fine.
Yeah.
Man, is that guy fallen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great statement. What we don't know about Dameon Pierce is, did the injury that he had, and I can't even remember what it was a couple years ago, is that zapped him of some of his powers? Is he having too much fun off the field? We don't know what happened to Dameon Pierce. He looks okay to me. I don't know what the problem is. I do know the Texans have some of the worst run blocking, which is great for Stroud and the 3 wide receivers. But if Joe Mixon thought he had bad blocking in Cincinnati, potentially wait until he gets a load of Houston's run blocking.
Tom Finn, 2018. Niners, Chargers, and Chiefs are just waiting for Dennis Allen to cut Perry. No, that would be interesting.
Yeah, he's not. I wonder if they would trade him. If I'm a GM of any of those teams, I'd be on the phone with him.
Man, he would be very interesting with any one of those teams. But particularly Niners and Chiefs, that would be really cool.
Yeah, but NFL teams don't. If Perry was going to be cut and they said, "Hey, Perry's available," then or if they pre-announced that they're going to cut Perry to give everybody a signal to call them about A.T. Perry, that's one thing. But I don't think that's going to happen. I would, as a GM, smell blood in the water on that and call up and say, if I'm the Chargers, I'm just saying, like, my wide receivers suck. I'm looking for young guys we can work with. I don't know what I see Perry's running second team with you guys. Would you be open to trading him for a 5th round pick or something like that? They drafted him with a 6th, so maybe get a fifth back for him.
RC would call Loomis and be like, "Hey, I want Perry," and then Loomis would say, "Oh, I love Perry," and then RC would be like, "You don't even know him. You would run him with the 13." It's another Moneyball reference, but anyways, Mike Powell in Dynasty, do you trade Daniel Jones for a third-round rookie pick? Other QBs are Stroud, Jaden Daniels, and Purdy. Have to trim a couple roster spots before the season starts.
Is this super flex? Like, why do you have Daniel Jones with all of those other guys? If it's super flex, then it makes sense. And then if you're proposing that Daniel Jones be traded for that he might be as valuable as a third-round rookie pick, then this has to be 2 quarterback or super flex. So yes.
Let's wait for Mike to respond and then super flex. There you
go. If you're having to trim the roster, then yeah. I mean, in Superflex, you got to have 3 great quarterbacks, but you do want a fourth if you can get away with it. Get a fourth on there, just because the power is at quarterback. That fourth quarterback, I mean, you got a perfect trio. That fourth quarterback should be an investment like a Will Levis or an Aiden O'Connell, somebody that can come from nothing to something so that you could trade them, you could possibly use them if some injuries hit. So there's not a ton of Daniel Jones upside, but he's useful. But if you think that you can get, if you don't think you need to hold a fourth quarterback, or you just don't like Daniel Jones, then sure, trade him. But if you want to have 4 quarterbacks, you just don't like Daniel Jones, go trade Daniel Jones for Will Levis.
Next question by Mike Powell, and I'm interested to see what you say about this. Jordan Whittington, who is
the sudden man of the hour.
Yeah, another receiver that the Rams took in this past draft out of Texas, or Dontavian Wicks in Dynasty. If you could only pick one, which one of those players would you be? And for the listeners that don't have any context, Whittington had a really good preseason outing for the Rams, so people are now saying, could he be the next Puka or whatnot? RC, what do you think?
And I have to note that I have not watched the Rams-Dallas game yet in all of its glory to weigh in on how Whittington looked. I did see 2 of his plays, and I was like, oh, crap. He's pretty good. That's a nice debut. I have been poking back and forth with Ross Jacobs, who doesn't like Whittington. He likes Worthy. I don't like Worthy, and I'm not huge on. And he hates Adonai Mitchell, and he doesn't like Whittington. He loves Worthy. I don't like Worthy. I'm okay with Mitchell, but I've said a couple times just off the cut, like Whittington may be the best of those 3 guys. Like he got buried on the Longhorns potentially. So now I'm seeing this come to fruition before the guys even I can't believe that we're here at this point talking about Whittington as a serious thing already. I thought there's no way he's going to get the time of day, because you've got Puka and Kupp. You've got a very good DeMarcus Robinson, who they put good money into. Tutu Atwell is very capable, but they'll probably trade him now that Whittington's coming on. I can't believe, and I'm just so happy for him because he got screwed in Texas. Quinn Ewers is terrible. Jordan Whittington should have, and I don't know about this Texas coaching staff either, because Whittington was sitting right in front of their faces, and they couldn't see to really boost him. And Xavier Worthy had his worst year of his career, college career, I think, his final year. It's like, I don't know what Texas is doing. Quint Ewers is terrible. You're the Texas Longhorns. You could buy the best quarterbacks, but nobody wants to go there because they think they're blocked by Quinn Ewers, who's terrible. In the context of, I'll bet there's a chance Quinn Ewers isn't even going to be drafted next year, but I bet every first round mock that any analyst does in 2025 has Ewers going in the first round. He's that not good. So all that to say, Whittington is good. Wicks is good. Whittington is not going to start. Whittington is no way he's going to get over past Kupp or Puka. If you own Puka or Kupp, you definitely would take Whittington because it's kind of like Whittington is a handcuff for Puka. Whittington is a handcuff for Cooper Kupp. If one of those two guys goes down, Whittington's going to plug and play in there and be good. Great, we'll see. Good, potentially. Wicks is in the same boat. Wicks is not a starter. They do not lean on one wide receiver. Wicks is never going to give you much of a fantasy payback because everybody around him is as young and in the same contractual sense as he is. So he's always going to be the number 4 who has randomly good or bad games.
Yep.
I would put it down to, if you had one of the other Green Bay wide receivers, you take Wicks as kind of a handcuff. If you have Kupp or Puka, you take Whittington as one of the as a handcuff to him. If you don't have anything tied to it, all I can tell you, I mean, Whittington's the hottest lower name player in the moment. So if you think you take Whittington and trade him in the heat of the moment, or if you think you can take Wicks and trade him in the heat of the moment because he had a 65-yard touchdown last week, so that means he's going to score 17 touchdowns this season on 17 catches. Whatever you think is going to be the best asset for you, in and of themselves, it's too hard to pick between them because it's one of the things I have against Puka. So as long as Puka's there, Whittington's never going to be the guy. So how good can Puka be, for example, if he's got Kupp and Whittington now to contend with? But looking forward, we don't know in a year or two who the Rams quarterback's going to be. I mean, at the pace that they're going, it's going to be Stetson Bennett. They haven't developed a young quarterback behind Stafford. So if Stafford is gone, Puka's in trouble from his lofty area that he's in now. Kupp goes way down. Kupp will probably be gone off the team in a year or two. Who's Whittington going to be working with? And is he going to be the number 2 or number 3 working with what quarterback? Wicks, we at least know who his quarterback's going to be. We know his place. And he's stuck in a weird situation for him. It's not a commentary on how good these guys are. It's a commentary more on what do you think is going to happen in a year or two with these guys. I just don't see how Whittington's going to be a breakout star in a year or two from now with Puka in there in existence, and we don't know who the quarterback is. But I also don't know how Wicks is going to be a star because he's stuck as the number 4. It's going to take injuries to propel these guys. So I'd say take the one that if you I'm sure I know Mike, I'm sure you have a contender team. So I would take Wicks because at least he'll be handy this year. You could use him as a flex or whatever. Whittington may not see 2 targets in a game the entire season, or at least for the first half of the season. Wicks is well integrated. Wicks could be the number 1 for that team as the number 4 wide receiver. Whittington, we're not going to say the same thing. So operationally, you're probably better to just get Wicks because it makes sense for now. Neither of us can predict the future on these two guys. They're in weird situations.
Okay. Next question by Mike. Are the Seahawks D one of your favorite defenses to start the season this year? And for the audience, I think they open up with playing Denver in Seattle, and then playing the Patriots on the road in week 2. RC, is there anything better than those 2 games back to back?
Well, now that we've seen Bo Nix, my Seattle love affair come down a notch after watching the Bo Nix debut. So, and I don't think they play the Patriots after that, right?
I think it's week 2 where they go on the road against New England.
And Jacoby Brissett is not terrible. I'm more attacking that offensive line and that offense in general. But Brissett's not the weakest link to target, but he is a weaker link to target. But Seattle's defense may be really good. We didn't get to see it this past week because it was all backups. Seattle's got potentially going to have a top 10 or 12 NFL defense facing, I don't care how good Bo Nix looks, it's still going to be his rookie debut. And when the real bullets fly, even Stroud struggled in his first game. Burrow struggled in his first game. They're going to struggle in the first game. So I have no problem targeting Nix or McCarthy, or if Penix was starting, or especially Caleb Williams. Rookies, no matter how great they're going to be 2 weeks from then, they always seem to underperform that very first week. Jane Daniels could be the exception because of his running, but I want to target rookie quarterbacks or Bryce Young over everybody. So in that vein, you could get the Saints. And then one of the reasons why I love to stream defenses.
You like to chase Bryce Young.
I like to chase Bryce Young, but which you can do, but give me an opportunity to see everything in week 1, and then I can tell you who the emerging situations are from there that we didn't see coming, the quarterbacks that are injured. I will find the right defenses as we go. Give me a week or 2 to just drink them in and see them in real action against real quarterbacks. So if Seattle just gets me through the first 2 weeks, then I'm gonna and they do in theory, then I'm gonna hop off of them week 3 because I know they play somebody I don't like. I can't remember who it is, but I just know it's time to hop off of Seattle week 3, most likely. By then, I'll have a better feeling. I will probably grab my week 3 and beyond defense in week 2 while I still have the Seahawks, because now I'm starting to get a book on what's going on, and I will find that defense. So Seattle helps get me through. Hell, the Saints facing Bryce Young, and if that's just the 1 week that we use them, then that just buys me a week to see who we should get in week 2. So, I mean, defenses are starting to become the ultimate coin flips as it is. I think I can get us an advantage, but even the best laid plans, there's going to be weird situations and kick return touchdowns and all of that. So that's very hard to predict, but let me see enough of the cards on the table in the poker tournament, and I'll find us the defenses we need to work with. So, but I want to come out of the gates targeting weakness. Seattle has one of the best starting situations, so do the Chargers, and then the Saints have the ultimate 1 week setup facing Bryce Young.
If RC could draft instead of drafting a defense, but drafting the offense you're playing against, I think he'd burn a first rounder trying to play against Bryce Young every week and getting the defensive points from that.
It may be that it's Carolina 1 and Chicago 2 in that. I want to see a little bit more Caleb Williams, but of all the rookies that are going to start, Caleb Williams is the one to target.
Good to know, RC. Okay, let's move back into chat. Mike Powell, Aiyuk is great at run blocking. That was to RC's question earlier, and then he was answering RC's question on his comment about his league. Now let's go to Johnny D. 10-team PPR redraft league. Currently have the first overall pick. What is the play? Draft CMC, which is pretty much consensus, or settle on Tyreek Hill, Lamb, Chase. I finished last season even though I had the most points. RC. CMC's dealing with an injury too, right? Like he has the calf problem. Does that scare you enough in a PPR league to go with your pick at receiver?
No. You just take CMC and truck on with your life. He's just too good.
Fair enough. Okay.
It's too simple a play. He's too separated away from everybody else. And I'm not going to worry. I can't worry about the injury till there's a reason to worry about the injury.
Yeah. Yeah.
Him being shut down for the preseason, he was going to be shut down for the preseason anyway. So I'm not thrown by that. If we get some news like, hey, this calf is worse than they let on, then so be it. But based on the information we have now, it's just too easy. It's just too simple to go with McCaffrey in PPR.
Next comment, Tom Finn 2018. Regarding starting too many players from the same team, if I had the balls to start Demarcus Robinson along with Kupp and Nakua in the championship game last year like I wanted to, I would have won. That would have been nuts, man. 3 receivers from the same team. I don't think I would have the cojones to pull that off.
Yeah. And in the Raiders situation, it's the tight end, wide receiver, and running back. So a little more diversification than going 3 wide receivers. Yeah, I don't know if I would have had that. If I possessed all of them, I don't know if I could have.
Yeah. Kupp and Nakua is probably as far as I would go if I had to. But
although, I mean, depending on the situation, depending on the alternatives, you go with all 3 if you think that they got a great matchup and they're going to destroy, and you're not sure which of those 2 are going to be the destroyers, so you play all 3 of them to get the 2 big-time ones so that you don't miss it, is a way to go. Well, settle this, Tom Finn, if you can. Who did you start instead? Maybe we're going to laugh at who you started and say you were silly. Or maybe it was so obvious you couldn't do Demarcus Robinson.
And while he types that, let's go into the next comment. Johnny D. replying to Tom Finn, I had a triple stack of Jacobs, Adams, and Myers all in my starting lineup once. I knew I was out of the playoffs. They all sucked. So
well, Jacobs ended up getting hurt and missed the tail end of the season. Adams was certainly underwhelming, and Myers had a good start to the season and then died off once the coaching switch happened. Everything kind of changed. So that's not the craziest stack, because Adams and Myers for about the first half of the season were running both as near back end wide receiver 1s.
Yeah.
Jacobs was not blowing up, but he was doing okay. Then it all started falling apart for the team and for fantasy. It all got changed up. Then all of a sudden Jacobs was doing really well. Adams tailed off and Myers started to disappear.
Yep.
I'm not a big stat guy. I get it. I've done it, but I'm not a big stack on purpose guy. But I'm also not afraid to have too many players tied to one team. There's just so many variables, anybody gets hurt. I mean, for this week, it's like, JJ McCarthy, torn meniscus, Marquise Brown, possible broken shoulder. They took Tyrone Tracy off in a air cast, and it looks like he's done for the season, of which he's not. We're finding out that it's not as bad as feared. It's only going to be a couple of week thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was this week. What's going to happen next week?
Yeah, only 1 week of the preseason, and obviously
we've only just begun.
Yep. Jeff Simon, I heard the comments early on about the status of Herbert. I have the 8th overall pick in a 1 QB rookie draft next week and expect BTJ and Ladd to be there. How far does Ladd drop? Who should I use the pick on?
I don't know if Ladd's going to drop, but the any Herbert news is going to scare people. But you draft Ladd. This is not like, it's not like Herbert has something where he's gone for the year. If the worst thing that could happen to Justin Herbert and then Ladd and Gus and everybody is 2 weeks from now they go, this Herbert walking boot didn't do what we thought, so he's going to have surgery. We hope to get him back October 1st for the schedule from then on in. So I mean, we're talking dynasty, we're talking long-term vision with Ladd. So the Herbert injury in a dynasty rookie draft has zero effect for me on it. You take who you wanted to take. I'm with Ladd. I don't blame anybody if they like being with Brian Thomas, but I think Ladd is the more obvious pick. If they were swapped, if Ladd was on Jacksonville and Brian Thomas was on the Chargers, I'd be all into Brian Thomas. I love Brian Thomas. I just hate the Jacksonville situation more than but I love the Chargers situation for Ladd.
And then Tom Finn 2018. That's why I picked up Whittington. I have Puka and Kupp, and I start both of them.
Yep. There's a handful of wide receiver handcuffs out there in a weird way. Whittington is one of them for both Puka and Kupp.
Okay.
And then if you make it to the title game, you play all three of them in the lineup.
Yep. G-Sox locks. What can I... And this is going...
That was a callback.
Yep.
To the earlier discussion.
Exactly. When we were discussing about packaging his first rounders, which he has 8, 9, and 10 to move up, and he's saying, what can I package to move up to get 1.1 or 1.7? So 1.7 obviously is just moving up one pick. We don't want to give up 2 first rounders to do that. That would be a crazy overpay. Spears 1.9 and 1.10, too much for 1.1 as an example. And then he goes on to say he uses dumb dynasty calculators. He thinks Bowers might be there at 1.7. I disagree with him. I agree that dynasty calculators, from what I use, they're not the best, but they do help you assess market value. My reply back to him, RC, what I like to do with trades is I like to show my interest in a pick, ask what it would take to get there, let them throw the first offer out, and just start negotiating down. If you give the first offer, he or she might be willing to do it for less than that, right?
That's a route to go. I'm also for. I have no problem coming in strong with a deal if I think, especially if I think that on paper it looks like the most amazing deal. Like, let's say Spears 1.9, 1.10 for the 1.1. Let's just say that he wanted to do that, which I would tell him to do that. So that, for some people, that looks like a great exchange. So I wouldn't have any problem just launching that with no discussions, going Spears in my 9 and 10, and letting them worry if it looks great to them, letting them worry that you might come to your senses or stop drinking for the night and pull it back. So if I got something that looks like a strong offer that I'm comfortable with, I will launch it. I won't beat around the bush, because like for a 1-1, they're going to be ridiculous. What they think they can get for a 1-1 is probably pie in the sky. But then you put something in front of their face, you don't know that the person who has 1-1, and I'm just using 1-1 as the example since it's on here, you don't know if that person loves Ty Spears. You also don't know if they hate Ty Spears. He's meaningless to them, and it's like you just offered the 9 and 10 for the 1. So you don't know that until you launch the offers out. If you ask somebody like, hey, do you like Ty Spears? Unless they're idiots, they're not going to be jumping out of their socks telling you how much they love Ty Spears. So you just don't know how they feel about Spears. So launching that offer without any discussion ahead puts them on the spot to make a decision. So to move up to the 1-1, I would definitely send the 9 and 10 for the 1. That's not even debatable. So if I hook Spears into it, I'm still thinking I'd rather have that 1-1. If that's going to be, whether that's to get Harrison. But if you're going to get Harrison, I advocate that you trade Harrison, that you don't run the season with Harrison, because the value is going to fall back because he can't live up to his value. So maybe you do this for the 1-2, which is totally different than the 1-1, because everybody thinks if they got the 1-1 that they've got the future Hall of Famer in Marvin Harrison, and maybe he's going to be, but you're dealing with that where at the 1-2, then it starts to get a little less heat on the pick. So if you think that 1-2 gets you Neighbors and you want to do Spears and 9 and 10, I mean, fill in names for it. So let's say your 9th pick, let's say McConkey's gone, Bauer's gone. So if your 9th pick, let's say that you took Daniels and Coleman. So would you trade Spears, Daniels, and Coleman for Malik Neighbors? I would. In a dynasty rookie draft, I would believe that hard in Neighbors. I'd be willing to overpay him or give the appearance of an overpayment for him. So moving to the 1-7, that's a whole different conversation. It was definitely not going to take that much to move up to the 1-7.
Yeah. And he's saying, he followed up on the bottom saying that the problem in this league is only 5 of the 12 teams trade. So,
again, that's where if I'm dealing with people who don't like to trade, that's where I like to launch out my offers. If I think it's a strong offer, I'm putting it in their inbox and making them make a decision. Make them say no. Don't try to outguess them. Don't worry about their history of non-response or puckered up or over. If you think you can get the 1-1 or 1-2, whatever it is, for 1-9, 1-10 and Spears, if you like that deal, if you like what you're going to get with those picks, launch it out to the person. Let them say no.
Good advice, RC. Sam Shen. Question. I have the 5th pick in the first round, assuming I drafted Jamar Chase in the first round. If both Anthony Richardson and Joe Burrow are available in the 5th round, should I go with Anthony Richardson, who has the higher rating in your draft guide, or Burrow to make a stack? And this is a redraft league, by the way.
Can you answer one more question to that? What is the quarterback scoring? Is it 4 or 6 points? Passing? Are there bonuses for things? Let me know that before I answer the question. Then we'll come back to it. And if you can't answer that, I'll answer it at the end.
6 point PPR, full PPR.
Then I go with Burrow. I love Richardson in a 4-point. Love him a little less in a 6-point. But there's guys that are set apart in 6-point. One of them is Burrow. So if I can stack Burrow and Chase in a QB friendly scoring, I'm doing that. Just make sure you get Will Levis or whoever in case Joe Burrow lands on his wrists. Get Jake Browning, whatever you need to do. Make sure you have a backstop to Burrow with the wrist issue, if it ever even becomes a thing. But I would take, in that situation, I would go Burrow myself, even though there might be a higher ranking. Like I'm sure they're close. And some of my Burrow projections have some discount for his wrist injury issue, where he's really at risk of getting sacked, getting hit, putting his hand out that he just had wrist surgery on this offseason to try to brace himself from a fall, and he re-injures and tweaks his wrist, and then we're screwed for a week or 2 or 5. So I've got that baked into it. If Joe Burrow had a complete clean bill of health situation, Burrow would be in my top probably 3 quarterbacks of in a 6-point. So I personally would go, if I had Jamar Chase and it's 6 points, I'd go Burrow, and then I just make sure that I had a great plan B. I always make sure I have a great plan B at quarterback, but with the Burrow situation, you've got to have a great plan B.
Go Jin. RC, how do you separate the data from what your heart wants in Dynasty? The data tells me to take a QB early in a Superflex Dynasty, but my heart wants Chase or Amon-Ra plus Neighbors. I'm assuming this is a startup, and the first round RC is primarily all QBs, right? It's rare to see like a non-QB taken there.
When it comes to Superflex, I shut off all the noise and know that quarterback is everything, depending on where you're picking as well. If you've got a top 5 pick and you pass up on the great quarterbacks in the upper half of the group to chase after another positional player, you're making a mistake in Superflex. If you've got the number 12 pick, it's certainly there's going to be lesser quarterbacks, but if you don't take 2 right off, to me, if you don't take at least 1, but especially 2 right off the bat, then when you come to draft again, like the whole league starters may be gone. And yeah, you got a really cool wide receiver, and you're going to be starting Gardner Minshew and Derek Carr at Superflex, and people are going to be crushing you with your great Amon-Ra weeks. So Superflex changes the game to where you have to be a slave to quarterbacks early, is all I can say.
And then grab Will Levis late.
I mean, yeah, there's a path. You can get cute and take one of these guys that you love, and then try to backdoor it with Levis and Aiden O'Connell, when it comes to Superflex, I shut my heart off, and I just take quarterbacks. But it's not insanity. It's not like you can't win going another route. But when it's especially when it's Superflex and not 2 QB, so quarterback in the flex or one of these other guys in the flex changes that a little bit. If you take one of those guys first, you have got to take I don't want to hear that you took some other positional player second. You've got to take a quarterback second.
And then he followed up RC Gogojin. Thank you, RC. I would be passing on an elite QB in the top 5 to chase what my heart and eyes want.
Yeah,
okay, I won't do that. Yeah,
if you want to get if you want to get all sappy and take Neighbors in the second, do that.
But he's usually there in the third though. But yeah, I mean, if you want to be safe, you can do it. But with that
the top 5
pick,
you got to take a quarterback.
Yeah, and RC with that 5th pick, probably Richardson's still there. Like, you can't pass him up.
Richardson, Burrow, I mean, the whole world is it a redraft or dynasty question? Oh, it's dynasty. So, I mean, that pulls Burrows, then the Burrow fear is reduced because if he tweaks his wrists and he has a couple off weeks or down weeks, we're talking dynasty. We're looking out over the horizon, so it's a different question. But Stroud and Richardson and all of those guys, there's just too many great quarterbacks at the most important position that is going to run out fast when there's still a ton of wide receivers to look at that are plausible. There will be no quarterbacks.
Yep. Okay. Shoot, I lost my position on the comment. Sorry, I'm losing it, RC. Okay. G Sox Locks. I told him I wanted a 1.1 for Zamir. This is going back to another question about how people don't like to trade in his league. He wanted Rashad and Bigsby for 1.7 is where he is on dope. So, yeah, that is definitely.
Yeah. And with people that make ridiculous offers like that, I mean, it's not ridiculous to them. Don't ask them what they want. Send your deal that you want. Make them say no. They can say whatever they want. They're going to play the Andrew game of, I want you to make the first move. And if you make them make the first move, they're going to also have the ploy of, I'm going to ask for a whole bunch as my starting position because I don't want to leave money on the table. In this scenarios, especially when I'm chasing a prized thing like the 1-1, I will put out the offer. I'm not inclined to play games for it. I'm going to go right after it, and you can say no.
Yeah.
So don't take all of their conversation about them asking for the moon and all that as these guys don't make trades. I can't deal with this guy. You can deal with those people. Send them official offers and make them say no. And then wait 24 hours before you do anything and see if they come back to you. If they come back to you in less than 24 hours with
interested.
I would do this for that thing that you wanted. Then the thing that you wanted is up for grabs. You just have to see if you can find the right order or the right offer. Because you can offer, Zamir or Rashad or Bigsby, but those players mean different things to different people. We might love Rashad, but everybody else hates Rashad. They see a total. We see $100 bill. They see a $50 bill. So, sure, Rashad and Bigsby for the 1.7 because they don't properly value Rashad. So you have to find out, is there a player that on your team or a thing that they way overvalue that you see as a $50 bill, but they see it as a $100 bill. So, like, if you had Bucky Irving, you could probably get it done.
And then I think the only other comment we didn't address was Tom Finn 2018. He started Ridley over Demarcus Robinson, which honestly I would have done the same thing. RC, I don't know if you said, instead of going 3 Rams receivers,
Ridley was getting hot at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's not on you, man. That's just bad luck.
Yeah.
Go Jin. Thank you, RC. Yeah. Oh wait, we already went through that comment. Sorry, guys. I'm officially losing my mind. Chris Frazier, thank you for all your insight. RC, good show. Tom Finn.
Pause real quick. To go Jin's question. Like today, we have the elite wide receivers like Chase and like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyreek. So in Dynasty, that's true today. But we may be getting ready to have Neighbors dumped in and McConkey dumped in and Brian Thomas dumped in. And then next year there's going to be 3 more guys that get dumped in. Those hot wide receivers at the top may not be as valuable as the elite quarterbacks because there's good quarterbacks in this draft, but Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy, among the rest of them, are not likely going to be a top 5 quarterback if you were doing this draft 2 years from now. But the wide receivers we're looking at could all be jumbled up or have lower value because there's just so many great quarterbacks and we don't know who the quarterback's going to be for those wide receivers. It's like 1 year Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins is like money in the bank. Well, now he's got Sam Darnold. It just changed everything. What if Amon-Ra St. Brown is great, but what happens if that offensive coordinator takes a head coaching job next year? Does that change the offense? So that's why I'm inclined with Superflex to go hard at the elite quarterbacks who don't tend to change.
Tom Finn 2018, Trevor Lawrence, or Travis Birkenstock, as I like to call him, was in his downward spiral, and Ridley had as many bad games as good ones, so I should have known better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Ridley's still good enough to start over Robinson, but anyways. Brody Johnson, hey RC, is there an option to donate/transfer to you directly? Would like to shout coffees for a week for all the great content this off season. My question is, will there be a preseason betting pod?
Let me take the last question first about the preseason betting pod. We've been talking about that with Chris to talk about. There's some plans of things that I'm trying to work out to put specific betting content out there. Outside of a pod, we might have a weekly pod on it. There's things that we're working on, but I realize the season's coming up fast, so I got to make decisions on it like this week, what we're going to do. And I'm very much into getting donations of coffee, because if you're cashing in, I don't have any problem taking a commission if it's from my work. And coffees, especially this from now until January, I need coffee to stay awake, to process all of these games, to look for all of these opportunities, to write all these games up. I'm getting 4 hours of sleep at night, and then taking an hour or two nap in the middle of the day, and then literally the rest of my days, besides when I stop to eat, I'm in my house, in my office, working on all of this stuff. I don't have time for my wife, my dog, TV, mowing the grass, any of that type of stuff. So coffee keeps me going. My ultimate dream is somebody will come along and donate thousands of dollars to me for the season in the form of Uber Eats gift cards, so that I don't even have to worry about cooking anymore, which is my life's dream, that I can just order food and have it sent to me so that I can keep working, because I do most of the cooking because my wife is the hardest working school teacher in the world. So I am home, so I typically cook the dinners, which I hate. I hate cooking. I hate the time that it takes. I hate the cleanup. I want my food delivered to me in a bag to my front door. I want to eat it, then I want to throw the containers into said bag and then throw that in the trash, and that's the dishes being done. So I'll take thousands of dollars in either small donations or one big donation for Uber Eats is our primary that's good here, or a Starbucks gift cards to get coffee because I need caffeine to wean myself. For the last 2 weeks, I've been setting alarms and reducing my sleep so I can get down to about 4 hours of sleep a day so that I have the 20 other hours available to do and look at everything. I'll sleep in the off season. So very much appreciated. My email is on the website that you can email me at, or the customer service. I see a couple people see the customer service just so one of us sees it and hops on it as fast as we can. So it'll get to me through there. So anybody who wants to donate food and coffee to a prisoner like myself, you're helping a prisoner in need. It helps keep me going, because when I get distracted of having to go grocery shopping or cooking food and taking an hour and a half, that's like a half a game I could have taken more time on processing on. Yep. So until this thing ever becomes a juggernaut where I'm doing all the work from my yacht, which is never going to happen, I will take people winning lots of money and sharing some of that with me so I can keep going.
And then RC going to the second question where he starts asking about your favorite future lines, Titans, Rams over, whatever. Do you want to save that for a future pod, or is there anything you want to address in that question right now?
Let me see. Which are your... I have done Titans, Rams over. I've done the McConkey touchdowns over. I think the 4.5 line at plus odds is ridiculous. If Herbert is there, McConkey is going to be the main. McConkey's going to lead them in touchdowns, and it's got to be more than 4.5 is my theory. I've done the Levis overs. I've not touched Neighbors is fairly priced on most of his stuff. So and the Daniel Jones thing, I don't see the value. I would bet the Neighbors over if I had to, but I'm not actively betting the Neighbors over stuff. I am doing McConkey. I am doing Levis. Titans and the Rams I've already done. The Rams may be my favorite bet of the year because I got it at like the initial line was 8.5 at like plus 140. Now it's 8.5 over minus 140 on the same platform. I usually use DraftKings just because it's easier and I know what I'm doing on it. I don't have a ton of time to be messing with all of the other things. I try to check in on FanDuel to see if the odds are radically better there. So I like those. And unders on Marv. No, I'm not touching the unders on Marv because I know they're going to throw him 1,000 targets a game. And he'll probably be great producer, even if he's not a great wide receiver. And everybody will mock me for the next year or two because he volumed his way to greatness. But that's okay. And then I have bet. Everybody interpreted the Caleb game as being so awesome, so his lines went up because so many people are betting on Caleb. So I took some more Caleb under when the lines went up. I know Bet the Close Chris did too.
Yep, and hopefully more on a future pod that we can get rolling for you guys.
It's for sure coming. I just don't know what form or what the details are yet, but it's coming.
TBD.
Because that's one of the best ways to get. We should make more money betting than it is for fantasy, because fantasy's great, and we're all the pursuit, the title chase, the draft, the trades, the waivers. It's awesome, but to actually make it to the finish line, it's like the one person who was saying they scored the most points in the league and finished in last place. Like, that crap drives me nuts, because matchups at the wrong time and whatever, it is hard to get to the end and get the bucket of gold at the end of the fantasy football rainbow. It's the ride that's great. It's the ride that's worth it. And then hopefully we win a title. But it's so hard to do, even if you have the greatest team ever.
Yeah.
But when it comes to betting, that's where I think we can make some really nice money, especially before the season starts and everybody gets a read on what they were wrong on. Right now, they're all pointing in the same direction. This is the best time as a bettor, is the off season, to bet on all of these props. So
Yep.
I want to win money. I want to win you money so that you can give me more money.
Stay tuned, guys. That's coming soon. Go Jin, you're right, RC. It's just a matter of time before we get another wide receiver uprising. I never considered the head coaching change either. So, okay.
Yep.
RC, that brings us to the end of the comments. Before we sign off for the evening, do you want to give the audience on what's coming up on FF Metrics?
As soon as I hop off here, I'm going to post the Seattle Chargers write-up. Tomorrow will be the final 2 games. They were the 2 Sunday games. I'll be processing those tomorrow. They should be both out tomorrow. Then Thursday and Friday will be all the dynasty, all the impacts of me seeing every game, for the first time. All the players, all the changes that are going to happen from what I've seen is going to be manifested in the dynasty rankings and the draft guide rankings coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next week.